we're here. Boy, is this loud, but that's great. So be sure you scream, Buzz. Like the hum, too. You got a hum?
I have a hum.
I like the hum. Last time it was, what was it? Echoing. Now we got a hum. I like it. All right, we're here with the professional meteorologist and well-known author, Harold Buzz Bernard. Let's give him a kid's greeting. Come on. All right, the kids are on vacation this week. Oh, there they are. All right, all right. You got
I like that.
You got some young fans. The rest of them are gone. Anyway, and this is Lucy Hutchings. Let's give her a hand. A little older group.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And Gino is not here today, but he should be in next time, we believe. So stay tuned.
Excellent.
Next one's the 20th.
Okay.
All right, so Dr. Bernard, you're a meteorologist, correct?
A retired meteorologist, correct.
Yeah, and also, but now you're on the New York Times 10 bestseller list?
Not yet.
No,
You want me to pay up somewhere?
But he is a novelist.
What?
I did have a book on Amazon, Kindle, that was a #1 bestseller, which was the first novel I ever wrote, Eyewall, back in 2011.
That was for the hurricane, right?
Yep.
Eyewall. See the big eyewall.
Yeah, I have his list here. I can actually read his bio.
Yeah, so let's put people to sleep and read the bio.
No, it's actually not a boring bio.
Of course not, because it's Mr. Bernard.
No, it's very interesting.
You stay awake now.
All right.
I'd love to hear it, yeah.
Yes, Buzz wants to hear it. Okay, so Buzz Bernard is a best-selling award-winning novelist. Before becoming a novelist, Buzz worked at the Weather Channel as a senior meteorologist for 13 years. So I'm guessing that's how you guys knew each other.
Wrong again. No, I was in Concord, Mass.
Was he doing some meteorology work?
Long time ago.
No, he went to a company called Environmental Research and Technology.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, prior to that, he served as a weather officer in the U.S. Air Force for over 3 decades. He attained the rank of colonel and received, among other awards, the Legion of Merit. These are all important things.
What are you, in the French Army or something?
This is good stuff. This is amazing.
Air Force, Ed, U.S. Air Force.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I'm impressed. His airborne experiences include a mission with the Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunters, airdrops over the Arctic Ocean and Turkey, and a stint as a weather officer aboard a Tactical Air Command airborne command post. So I thought that was pretty important considering the books that he just read. So I definitely wanted to read that. Okay. In the past, he's provided field support to forest fire fighting operations in the Pacific Northwest, spent a summer working on Alaska's Arctic slope, and served 2 tours in Vietnam. Various other jobs, both civilian and military, have taken him to Germany, Saudi Arabia, and Panama. All right. So, and I followed your blog a little bit, so I know you have an interesting story for us about a fairy tale. But right now,
Yes?
right now, maybe you want to tell us about your new book that's coming out in June.
Hey, wait, just a moment. I didn't know you were in Vietnam.
I had 2 tours in Vietnam.
Yeah, but you never said anything over in Concord.
Well,
Is that why you kept hiding behind the table?
you never asked me.
Why did I ask you?
Do you see why we read a bio?
Oh, you're blowing up. All right.
You're hearing something awful.
It sounds great. Oh, wait,
It's okay.
now we're going down.
It's getting better.
That's better.
You're much louder, too. Oh, here we go. All right. Want to take it away before I go deaf here?
All right. So, so you have 5 books that you wrote about natural phenomena, right?
Oh, it's cleared up. Oh, now he's gone. Now you're gone.
Buzz, say something to us.
Say something, Buzz.
Gone.
Gonzo.
Oh, wait.
We got the buzz. Oh, this is good. We got the buzz, Buzz.
The buzz is back. How
right.
appropriate, right?
All right. We can hear you now, right?
Okay.
I can.
We good to go?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll go anywhere. What's that?
Okay. Good. Yeah, it sounds good.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So 5 books about natural phenomena, and then you have 3 books, one of which is coming out in June, and that's the series When Heroes Flew. So all those, the first 5 though, I think are all award-winning books. Is that correct?
There were several that won awards. I can't remember which ones they were.
I think I have it here.
One, I think I think Supercell was one.
Excuse me, did they win the Harold Bernard Award?
Cascadia.
No, it was the Epic eBook Award, I think is what it
Epic
was.
ebook?
Cascadia was 2018 Epic ebook award. Supercell 2015 Epic ebook award, and Plague 2014 Epic ebook award. And iWall was 2011 #1 bestseller in Amazon's Kindle store.
And then When Heroes Flew also won the Military Writers Society of America gold medal.
Yeah, and that was 2020.
Winner.
And then the Shangri-La Raiders.
Oh, Shangri-La, what the hell is it? That was the other team.
And then The Roof of the World.
Uh-oh, we're out, we're back.
Roof of the World, yeah.
What was that, Alaska?
No, that's coming out. Actually, it said earlier on Amazon it was coming out in June. It's coming out in May. It's speeded up a little bit.
What is that one about, sir?
May 24th will be the release date for The Roof of the World. It's about the transport pilots who flew over the Himalayas in World War II, supplying China from India. Amazing number of tales there, and a very, very dangerous mission that they flew. This was, well before the jet age, obviously. So here they go over the 25,000 foot Himalayas in these prop-driven airplanes with very little navigation equipment. They had no idea of the weather up there, probably the most violent weather on Earth. And that route they flew from India to China and back.
They didn't have any. They didn't have any heating in there, right?
They had heaters, but they didn't like to use them because they were often carrying a lot of fuel drums. So they didn't want any open flame heaters in the fuselage.
That could be a problem.
The airplane. And the route they flew became known as the Aluminum Trail because there were so many crashes. You could almost fly that route by looking for the broken aluminum on the ground.
These are all volunteers to do this?
Well, no, they were U.S. Army Air Force's pilot.
But they were ordered to do it, or they had to volunteer for the missions?
Well, not necessarily. Ironically, they became known as pilots who were averse to combat, and they got a lot of ribbing from the fighter pilots and the bomber pilots, who thought these guys were flying or had a very safe job.
Yeah, right.
Just the opposite was true as it came to light. A large number of airplanes crashed. Loss of life was up in the hundreds over the year, 2 or 3 that these missions were going on.
Did they have any radar on the plane?
Pardon me?
Did they have any radar on the plane?
No radar.
Great.
No.
Wow. So what inspired you to write this series?
What led me to the series? I never had any intention of doing a series. After I'd written my 5 initial novels, I'd had this novel about the air raid on Ploiesti, Romania, that I'd written a short story about years ago. At the time I wrote the short story, I thought that there was a novel in there. But at that point in my career, I had no idea how to write a novel. But after I wrote the 5, and I still had this idea about doing the story about the raid on Ploiesti, which I thought was a remarkable tale, in my head. So that's how the novel came to be. And I also integrated into that story tales that my late wife had told me. She had grown up in Germany during the Second World War. So she had a lot of, I won't say wonderful tales, but insightful stories of what it was like growing up during a war in Germany. And I use those and fit those into my story. So there's kind of a, not only the American viewpoint in the story, but also the viewpoint of the Germans, not all of whom bought into the Nazi philosophy. Many of the pilots in the Luftwaffe were among those. They had their own code of honor and their own way of fighting the war, and it was nothing like the Nazis had. And I wanted to highlight that in the story that I wrote, When Heroes Flew. So that's part of it.
There was a bomber that was he was on a mission over German-held territory, and he was all shot up, and he was heading the wrong way. He was heading east instead of west, and a German, they sent up a German fighter plane to finish it off, and the guy came alongside, and he couldn't believe that the plane was still flying because it was all beaten up, and he was trying to get them to signal them. Finally got them to understand. Oh, is that it?
This is that story you're talking about,
Yeah.
Ed. It's about a German fighter pilot who decided this plane was so badly shot up, it had very little chance of getting back to England. And he decided that they'd suffered enough, and he was fed up with the war. And he just wanted the plane to, well, he assumed it was going to crash, but for that reason, he let it go. And it made it back to England. And then years later, these two pilots met each other. They both survived the war.
I think it was the 1990s or something like that.
Yeah, I forget the exact date of it, but it was a remarkable story.
I think he got them, he escorted them back. He got them to follow him, to get them in the right direction.
He flew with them long enough that he kept other German fighters off the aircraft. Of course, he didn't want to. He didn't want to escort it all the way back to England.
That wouldn't look
he
good.
himself would have been shot down. But,
He would have been in London before that.
Wow.
But that was a wonderful book, and I used some of that. I used that book as part of my research for the novel When Heroes Flew.
Okay, so
Interesting.
you have another question for this person?
Well, I was just going to comment that growing up, history was horrible for me in school. It was so boring, and I just wish that it was the way it was presented. I just wish that they had presented some historical fiction as a much better way to learn about history. It's just so much more interesting than reading a textbook about wars and dates and names.
You memorize all this, give me a break.
Well, history is made up of people, and I had a wonderful history teacher in high school, and I had, not sure how I got into it, but I did take some history courses in college, and I had a wonderful history professor there who could make history come alive because he talked about the people and the personalities and the trials and tribulations they went through. So if you can bring history alive by doing that, by putting people, personalities into these settings, and that's what I like to do with fiction, where you can develop the characterizations of these people and their reactions to events.
So it's basically historical fiction then, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's historical fiction, yeah. World War II
Thank you for the
historical fiction.
confirmation.
So, but what about the first 5 books that you wrote? Where was the inspiration for those?
Well, I guess just the fact that I enjoyed writing, and I thought all I did was wanted to tell this tale initially about the hurricane hunter that flew into a hurricane and got trapped in the eye. And I thought, well, that might make a pretty good story. And I didn't really know much about writing a novel at that point. But I did study the craft and thought that I had developed a pretty good tale. And I was encouraged enough by people who had been in the business who encouraged me, that said, you've done something that's probably publishable there. And I tried and I tried and I tried and literally got hundreds of rejections. trying to get the thing published. And I just got kind of ticked off at the end. And I was going to get the thing published just to prove a point. I had no idea, no thought of writing additional novels. But once that got published, and then it hit #1 on Kindle bestseller list, and that kept me going. So I thought, well, if I can do it once, I can maybe do it a few more times. Well, I never had any more bestsellers, but the book sold well, and I ran through that series and thought I'd like to try something else. And that brings me back to the idea of the World War II historical fiction. So that's how I got started on that. Again, it was just going to be one book, and that turned out to be pretty successful. So what the heck, keep going.
Yeah. When we worked together back in the dark ages, right? We you weren't writing then, right?
I had written some nonfiction books. I think the first nonfiction book I had, which is about weather and climate, came out in the late 70s, early 80s. So I think I had just begun writing books at that point, not novels, but books. And one of the first was based on some of the work that was done when we were at ERT together. Do you remember Dr. Herd Willett?
Yeah.
He was
MIT,
professor
right?
emeritus from MIT. And he kind of gave me the idea of doing a book about long-term climate change. So that's kind of how I got started writing. Was indeed my time at ERT when I met Professor Herd Willett.
Who was the guy we had there who wrote the, didn't he write the weather book with all kinds of forecasting techniques? That wasn't him, was it?
I don't.
The guy had a heart attack on 128, and he drove himself to the hospital.
No,
Wow.
that wasn't Herd Willett.
No, but it was somebody else who was there, I think. Not recommended by the American Medical Association. No.
So
I don't remember who that was, Ed.
you look like you're sitting in your house right now. So where do you usually do your writing? Do you have a special place?
Yeah, the bathroom. The bathroom.
Maybe.
You write in the bathroom a lot?
This is a special place. This is my writer's studio that I'm sitting in. When Barbara and I made the decision to get married, which was last year, I said, this is going to be a problem, because I knew she wasn't going to move. She'd lived in Kennewick. I mean, we'd grown up together in Portland, Oregon, but she had lived in Kennewick for 45 years. And I could see that, her house was full. I said, there's physically no place for me here. And so she came up with the idea of doing this studio for me. And this is it. I mean, this is the result of something that started last September, October, I guess, really. Started last October. And this is my writer's studio.
And so is it attached to the house, or is it separate?
It actually is separate. It's attached to the garage. So I have about a 30-foot commute.
You better not get her mad, because she'll turn the engine on in the garage.
Got about a 30-foot commute from the house to the studio.
Well, with all that blizzard you don't get, it'll be hard getting.
So speaking of your wife, you have a really interesting story that I read a little bit about on your website.
This could be divorce court coming up.
No, this is a fairy tale that is incredibly interesting.
I watch Looney Tunes. Could you tell us about it?
And I would love for you to share with us a little bit about that story, about how you ended up in Washington, because Ed thought you were calling from Atlanta.
Hey, I'm a little behind, okay?
So catch him up.
Okay.
I'm a little bit country too,
Well, Ed knew my
Yeah.
former wife. He knew Christina. Christina and I were married for 50 years, and she passed away shortly after our 50th wedding anniversary.
You have a daughter, right?
I have a daughter who lives in Alpharetta, Georgia, yes.
Okay.
And so she's still in the Atlanta area. Wasn't too happy to see me leave there. But
That's what she told you. But she
anyhow, after Christina passed away, Barbara and I had been boyfriend and girlfriend in the 8th grade.
I don't know if I want to hear this.
Back in the Portland, Oregon area.
Was this in the...
The ironic thing was, when we got into high school together, we never dated in high school. We had classes together. We served on committees together. I think we were class officers together, but we never dated. And after high school, we went our separate ways. And
I believe that a quote from her, I believe a quote from her that she couldn't stand your guts. I think that's what the quote was.
Could be. Anyhow, we kept in loose contact over the years, mainly Christmas cards every few years or so. So we knew where each other was and what the status of our separate lives were. But that was about it. But once Chris passed away, and her husband, she'd been a widower for 16 years. At that point. So she had no spouse. But again, we kept in contact. And then when Chris passed away, she'd check on me every few weeks via email. And gradually the emails became a little more frequent. I mean, there was really, truly no romantic connection there. We were just old friends conversing with each other.
Does that include the wedding night too?
No, we
let
were
him get to
better
that.
than,
Oh, so you're good.
better than old friends.
Oh, okay. You had the book out. Well, that's what you do.
The emails became more frequent, and I finally said in August of 2020, I guess it was, I said, do you mind if I give you a phone call? I mean, we hadn't talked really for all these years, just text messages and emails back and forth. So we got on the phone, and I think that first time we had the phone conversation, we talked for about an hour. And gradually the phone calls became more frequent, the emails became more frequent, and we discovered that there was a real connection there, that we hit it off together. We made each other laugh, which I think perhaps was the most important thing.
I'm going to start crying here, Buzz.
We had a lot in common. And at the point of my 80th birthday, which was 2021, January 2021, I wrote a blog about, growing older, being 80, losing a spouse, and she had been essentially proofreading some of the material I was writing by that point, and I sent her the blog to look at. And she did not like the blog at all. I think it scared her a little bit because it made her realize I was not psychologically in a good place. And she commented on it to me and said, let's get things straightened out here, Bernard. You've got a lot on the ball. You've got a lot to live for. And I'm not going to let you publish this blog as it stands now. And so I made some changes in it, published it. And at that point, our relationship became much more intense and frequent. And we began, it got to the point where we're sending several emails back and forth to each other every day. We're having phone calls every other day or so. And she finally admitted in one of her emails to me, she said, I'm afraid to tell you this because it might be the end of our relationship, but I fell in love with you when we were young teenagers and I never stopped loving you. So at that point, as I wrote in my blog, I was reading this email from her, and I said, geez, it's the middle of the day. I need a drink. I literally did. I think that's the first time in my life that a woman has ever driven me to drink. I said, I got to think about this. So I did. I had a couple of shots of Jack Daniels and then went on a long walk and tried to figure out how to respond to her.
Then you forgot what you were thinking about, right? After the Jack Daniels.
It cleared my mind.
Yeah.
But I guess I responded appropriately, and we carried on from that point, and you could tell that our, obviously our relationship changed, and she wanted me to come visit, and I said, well, you know what, I'm planning on flying out to visit my brother in Portland next September. Now we're in February here. I said, I'll be out there in September. I can probably make a side trip over to Eastern Washington from Portland, and we can visit for a few days. And she said, yeah, okay. Well, another month or so went by, and she sent me an email and said, I can't wait until September. You get yourself out here now. So I did, and by September we were married, to shorten the whole story.
That's amazing. I mean, it's not every day that an 80-year-old man gets gets such a romantic story.
I found that to be true too,
I loved that story on your blog. It was so great. So where can people find your books, and where can they find the more details of that story? Where can they find your blog?
Well, you can get more details on my website, and that's simply buzzbernard.com.
That's too easy.
That's the story about Barbara and I.
We have a minute to go, sir.
Okay, buzzbernard.com. Go look at the blogs over the past couple of years. The books can be purchased through Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You may not find them in the store, but you can order them through Barnes & Noble. You can pick up the Kindle version on Amazon.com. And as I say, the new book, Roof of the World, will be coming out May 24th.
Are you on Twitter?
I am not on Twitter. I am on Facebook.
So am I. You haven't looked me up, though. I guess you have.
Really? Are you on
Oh, yeah,
Facebook?
You're on there because I get stuff from you occasionally.
I'm on Facebook,
well,
too.
we must be friends then.
Well, I don't know how, but we are,
Just
yes.
want to put that out there.
What?
I don't know how we've lasted all these years.
Well, we live in separate parts of the country. That's how that went on. Yeah. Yes, young lady.
Nothing, but I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on. It was really interesting to get to talk to you.
Get a checks in the mail, Buzz. Checks in the mail.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, Lucy, and good seeing you again, Ed. Really, it is.
Really, thank you. Say hello to your lovely wife. What's her name, Grace?
Barbara.
Oh, Barbara, yeah. Say hello to Babs for me, will you?
And you to Mary.
Thank you. Take it easy, Buzz, huh? Stay well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ed Sullivan is dead, but Cohen isn't. And when it comes to weather, Cohen's smart. As New York as you get, his money's on the Mets, which goes to show that Ed's a Joe who always bets his heart. You'll hear a slick review or two from Nicky, and Cantor Something Berg will sing some song. There's weather news and shtick, enough to make you sick. You'll be glad you came along.